This map shows the geopolitical reality of the 3rd century BC. The Roman Republic controls the Italian peninsula, but look out across the water. The wealthy city-state of Carthage dominates North Africa, the islands, and the vital sea routes. When two expanding powers share the same neighborhood, friction is inevitable. That tension snapped over the island of Sicily, sitting between them, triggering the First Punic War. Going into this conflict, Rome faced a glaring problem. They had practically no navy. Carthage, on the other hand, possessed total maritime supremacy, treating the Mediterranean like a private lake. Instead of conceding the water, Roman engineers captured a single-stranded Carthaginian warship. They took it apart piece by piece, figured out how it worked, and built hundreds of exact copies in a matter of weeks. After 23 years of grinding conflict, this rapid adaptation paid off. Rome won, forcing Carthage to pay a massive financial penalty and surrender its grip on the surrounding islands. Rome proved it would do whatever it took to win. But the severity of that victory bred a deep resentment in Carthage. It specifically fueled the rage of a Carthaginian general who made his young sons swear a lifelong oath of hatred against Rome, a boy named Hannibal. That boy grew up to become one of history's most brilliant military minds. Driven by his childhood oath, Hannibal Barca lived for a single purpose: to tear Rome down. In 218 BC, he made a move nobody saw coming. As we can trace on this map, instead of attacking by sea, Hannibal marched a massive army out of Spain, cut across southern France, and headed straight for the land border of Italy. To get there, he had to force tens of thousands of soldiers and dozens of war elephants over the Alps. Doing this in the middle of winter was considered geographically impossible. Thousands of his men froze to death or fell from the cliffs, and most of the elephants barely survived the crossing. Yet Hannibal made it through the mountains and spilled into northern Italy. The Roman Republic panicked. They sent out multiple armies to stop him, and Hannibal systematically dismantled every single one, racking up huge victories at places like Trebia and Lake Trasimene. Rome found itself trapped inside its own borders. They were dealing with a commander who completely ignored the standard rules of ancient warfare, and they had no idea how to stop him. Desperate to end the nightmare, the Senate raised the largest force in Roman history. In 216 BC, at the Battle of Cannae, roughly 80,000 Roman soldiers marched out to crush Hannibal's much smaller army. Hannibal set a trap. He allowed his center line to fall back. The packed Roman infantry pushed forward, deep into the Carthaginian formation. Once committed, Hannibal's flanks snapped shut. He executed a perfect double envelopment, trapping the massive Roman force in an inescapable kill box. The slaughter was absolute. In a single afternoon, between 50,000 and 70,000 Romans were killed. It remains one of the bloodiest single days in military history. The Roman ruling class was decimated. According to ancient accounts, Carthaginian soldiers pulled so many gold rings from the fingers of dead Roman officers that they filled 3 separate bowls. With their army wiped off the map and a hostile genius roaming the Italian countryside, the Roman state had reached the exact point where any normal civilization would have negotiated a surrender. Rome's response was chillingly stubborn. They simply refused to yield. The Senate actually passed a decree forbidding anyone from even discussing peace terms. To survive, they took extreme internal measures. They scraped together brand new armies, drafting anyone who could hold a spear, including arming freed slaves to replace the men they lost at Cannae. They adopted an agonizingly slow strategy of attrition. They entirely avoided meeting Hannibal head-on, focusing instead on cutting his supply lines and absorbing the massive economic damage as they waited him out for 15 long years. The stalemate only broke with a Roman general named Scipio Africanus. Realizing they could never beat Hannibal on Italian soil, Scipio took a massive gamble. He loaded an army onto ships and sailed directly for the city of Carthage. The threat to his capital forced Hannibal to abandon Italy and rush home. There, on African soil at the Battle of Zama, Scipio finally beat him. Rome did not survive the Second Punic War by being tactically smarter on the battlefield. They survived through a pathological, institutional refusal to ever accept defeat. Decades later, in 146 BC, the conflict reached its absolute end. During the Third Punic War, the Roman Senate decided that military victory was no longer enough. Complete erasure was required. Roman forces breached Carthage, burned the magnificent city to the ground, and enslaved its entire surviving population, leaving behind nothing but leveled stone foundations. To ensure the city would never rise again, legend states Roman soldiers literally salted the surrounding earth, poisoning the soil so nothing could ever grow. By the time the fires died out, Rome had eliminated its only geopolitical rival. The trauma and the triumph of the Punic Wars forged a new kind of state, an unyielding militaristic empire that was now the undisputed master of the Western world.